We are on the precipice of a major change as Pluto enters Aquarius in just a few short days on Thursday, March 23rd. In 2023, Pluto will only stay in Aquarius for 2.5 months, leaving on June 11th to return next year. This is an important introduction of a 20-year-long period of Pluto in Aquarius that will change our lives and the world as we know it. Let's go for a closer look. My name is Anastasia. I'm a traditional Western astrologer specializing in natal, relationship, and predictive readings. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. If you have been with me for a while, leave me a like or a comment. If you'd like to work with me, you can book a reading on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. There will also link down there. And if you've been following me for a while, you know that I approach astrology from a perspective of what can we do to help to use it to help improve our lives, right? And I've been creating planetary magic candles and oils. This is my latest creation, Moon in Cancer, really good for people with Moon in Scorpio, Moon in Capricorn, because people born with those placements tend to struggle with relaxing. They kind of may hold on to feelings for a bit longer, especially with the Moon in Scorpio, but Moon in Capricorn just has that perspective of like needing to be a provider and needing to have the answers to all questions. So having a Moon in Cancer candle, it has silver foil in it because silver is the metal of the moon, and it has a scent of moonflower and nectar. So it smells really sweet and flowery. Can help anyone actually, not even Moon in Capricorn, Moon and Scorpio people. It can help you relax, it can help improve your sleep, it can improve fertility, bring better powers to manifest. So especially around new moons, lighting this up and setting your intentions can be very helpful. Thank you for listening. I also have candles for Venus if you want help with romance, for Mercury if you want help with writing, Saturn when it comes to pursuing your long-term plans, Jupiter when it comes to optimism. Jupiter candles are selling out quickly. There's only 8 of them left, so jump on while you can. So Pluto, I made a video about Pluto before. You can definitely check it out to see, to compare the two videos and maybe learn a little bit more from the other one. I'm not gonna necessarily repeat things, but there's definitely going to be some overlap, right? What is Pluto? Pluto is the planet of power and the strength that comes with having power, but also the shadows of power, right? The fears we have when it comes to losing our power. Pluto shows you your weak spots. Pluto is also the planet of deep transformations, like, kind of letting go of your old self and becoming a different version of yourself. And that transition often happens through facing difficulty, through facing darkness. Like it can bring us depth and transformation and like power. And that's one of the things that you can actually expect with Pluto entering Aquarius is gradual, powerful changes, right? Like coming more in touch with your power. But another side of Pluto is the fears that we all have and the darkness that we all have. So Pluto entering Aquarius will definitely, on a personal level, will make you address fears connected to the house it's transiting through. And on a global scale, it can make us deal with fears connected to Aquarian topics. And, like in the past, the last time Pluto has been in Aquarius, which would have been 245 years ago, 246 years ago, between 1777 and 1798 was the time of the French and American Revolution. It was the time of the Industrial Revolution, where old systems were replaced by new ones. And a lot of people were fearful. People were fearful of how will these changes, how will this industrialization affect their life, their income, right? So there was like a significant change in production, the rise of factories, new manufacturing processes. And now as we are entering this next stage, we're looking at revolution of technology, revolution of AI, revolution of social media, right? Like things that, like, what is that thing, like Chat GPT, right? The robot that is able to like write poems and able to even like do some astrological delineations. So, you know, like, and we just had recently, there were all these people posting like artsy art pictures of themselves, and then there was a lot of controversy connected to that, because the program was actually using the art of real artists. So when it comes to like Aquarian topics and technology and like how much control we have over technology, how can we use technology so it serves us versus oppresses us, right? Like, and how much potential is there, right? Because some of the exciting benefits of this transit is, you know, fusion energy development, right? And like progress connected to that, scientific breakthroughs, the rise of green energy, and a lot of kind of exciting possibilities. But there's also fears of technology. There's also fears of certain jobs becoming extinct. There are not being any writers anymore because computers can just write things for you. And, you know, we're also afraid of robots a little bit right now as well. So needing to address on a global level, needing to look at like fears and resistance connected to technology, and maybe learn to better manage the social space, right? And like I said, on a personal level, like needing to examine fears that get activated in your life. I was actually watching the 2023 forecast the Astrology podcast did, and Austin Kopach, who was actually my first ever astrology teacher, was talking about Pluto connected to like fears and horrors of our lives, and how as Pluto transits through different signs, you can see the focus of horror change. So he was talking about like Pluto and Scorpio generation, which, you know, I'm part of the Pluto and Scorpio generation that was like from around like 83, 84 until mid 90s, the rise of serial killers, and how many like fears were connected to that, and also kind of like the, you know, the sexually transmitted diseases being extra kind of on people's radar, and there being a lot of fears connected to that. I believe that was the rise of the AIDS epidemic, and if I'm wrong, please correct me, but I'm pretty sure that's what was going on as well. And then when Pluto was in Sagittarius, which is from like mid 90s until 2007-8, there were a lot of fears of like travel and terrorists, right? And like people kind of, and like and like school shootings, where Sagittarius is connected to travel and education, and those places being the sources of fear. And then Pluto entered Capricorn between 2008, 2009, and until now, right? Like 23, 24. And we had to look at the laws that are governing us, at the structures we live inside, right? Like some of the kind of traditional things that have been outdated, or people who kind of cling to power, like, you know, the Russian president, for example, like changing the laws in order to fit his long-term regime. Because traditionally in Russia, the rules were also like you get 4-year term, you can have 2 4-year terms, and then you leave office. And he ended up changing the laws to make it 6 years, 2 terms, and then you can take a break and you can come back. So fears connected to people usurping power, or, you know, to like old, outdated systems controlling important political issues like race, religion, female bodies, all of that kind of stuff. I'm not here to go into that. You know, everyone is entitled to their opinion, but that's just like an observation that was made. And finally, now that Pluto goes into Aquarius, we fear Aquarian things, and Aquarius is the sign of progress, right? And there could be a lot of things that we have to address on a global level, but also on a personal level, of technological developments and the future and the robots and social media and all of these developments of AI. How are they going to affect us? But what's good in observing all these transits is like we learn through them and we do better. So here we have the power to like figure out how to do better. Another thing that Aquarius Pluto is connected to is overthrowing monarchy and kind of outdated structures falling. So people who have been holding on to power for too long can potentially be released from their like position. So it's interesting. And Pluto does like a few dips into Aquarius before it ingresses permanently. This year between March 23rd and June 11th. Next year we're gonna get Pluto in Aquarius between January 20th and September 1st. And then on November 19th it enters for basically 20 years. It doesn't exit until permanently, like in 2044. There's going to be a slow fade out, kind of similar to what's happening right now with Pluto and Capricorn. And of course, if you're born with any planets in 0 degrees of Aquarius, Leo, Scorpio, or Taurus, you are likely to feel these changes the strongest. Or if you have any points like your ascendant or midheaven, descendant, or IC in 0 degrees Aquarius, this year it might affect you very strongly. And just pay attention, for all of us, it's important to pay attention at how these things affect us in order to prepare and be ready to handle it when it permanently ingresses. So yeah, on a personal level, I think some of the main themes, like I said, is gradual change, gradual deep change, finding more power in that area through transformation, sometimes maybe facing fears and facing control issues, facing power struggles. And another important theme is like craving intensity. Sometimes people are fearful of Pluto as it relates to death, but as much as literal, like even more so than literal death, Pluto represents more spiritual transformation, right? Like the death that comes from letting something go and starting anew. If you're born a Scorpio rising between mid 80s to late 90s, you were born with Pluto in the first house, and those people go through transformations a lot. Or if you are a Capricorn rising and you had Pluto in your first house since 2008, you probably know what I'm talking about. Sometimes it could be actual death, but I wouldn't be afraid of it because a lot depends on other transits, and it's, don't just freak out because of Pluto. Just be ready to kind of face your own shadows and face your own fears. So let's take a look at 12 rising signs and describe what one might expect with Pluto ingressing into Aquarius. If you are an Aries rising, Pluto is about to go into your 11th house. 11th house deals with friendships, networks, social groups. And so as far as Pluto goes, you can experience changes in your social fabric, in the environment that you are in. Like I am dating a Pisces rising, and when the transit started with Pluto being in his 11th house, he had kind of a friend betrayed him. So I guess that's the more like dark energy here, right? Like needing to address some kind of shadows when it comes to friendships, seeing a friend for who they are. And so there might be transformations, there might be like a need to let someone go. You may have to face a darker energy when it comes to friendships, like, maybe a friend being obsessive or possessive or needy or trying to manipulate you. And through addressing that energy, you will heal your friendships and you will connect to, like I said, true friends and people who are truly supportive of you. You can become a really strong leader. Like becoming a leader, I think, is also quite likely. You're not necessarily going to want to work underneath someone. And as far as 11th house dealing with social groups and kind of collective, there can also be a strong potential for leading people for a cause, right? Like being passionate about some kind of cause, being driven to make a difference. Another thing 11th house represents is your plans for the future, your hopes and dreams for the future. So there might be transformations there where you are realizing, like I said, maybe you want to make a difference and you want to start a nonprofit organization versus work for somebody else or work for a competitive kind of environment. And yeah, like fears connected to friendships will need to be addressed as well. And like you will also potentially seek people who can transform you. You might like meet people who are very influential in your life and will have very powerful effect on who you are. If you are a Taurus rising, Pluto ingresses into your 10th house on March 23rd. Pluto will stay there until June 11th, introducing the topics that will shape the next 20 years of your life. So Pluto in the 10th brings slow, significant changes to your outward persona, to the way the world sees you. And that could be your career, that could also be your reputation, this could be your marriage, right? Like something significant in the way you present yourself to the world. And of course, as in 10th house dealing with career, you may feel like very strong desire to reach your goals. Kind of your ambition may increase. You may be pursuing projects that have like deep personal significance. Pluto in the 10th is classically also like a very strong, powerful position. So trying to reach a place of power is very likely. At the same time, because like Pluto is the shadow planet, you may be struggling internally between your search for power and your need for privacy, right? Because like Pluto in the 10th house can definitely create that kind of balance of like, you know, I want to be private, but I also want to be in control. So whenever I do readings, I often describe Pluto in the 10th as like power behind the throne. So you may definitely get like a chance to be more in power, but potentially do so behind the throne, right? Like not be the king necessarily, but be the one who the king listens to. As far as in Pluto representing shadows and darkness, this could be the time your dirty laundry gets aired or some of your secrets become public. So be careful. And that's why whenever Pluto transits the 10th house, I would encourage anyone to pursue things, to be high-minded, to take action that puts you in the best light, that helps other people, that is not gonna destroy you if that became public. So it's a 20-year long period, right? Like you're not necessarily going to see all of these major changes happening in the 2.5 months period with Pluto in Aquarius this year, but getting more in touch with your abilities, getting more clear on what you want to achieve is highly likely during this period. If you are a Gemini rising, Pluto is about to go into your 9th house between March 23rd and June 11th. So 2.5 months period, introduction of 20 years of Pluto in Aquarius between now and 2044. Major change, right? So it will be an introduction, not necessarily immediate bang, but kind of seeds being planted. Here we're talking about 9th house, which deals with faith, travel, education, publishing, religion. So in general, Pluto transiting the 9th house can bring profound transformations to your belief system. This could be the time you become more religious. This could be the time you become less religious. This could be the time you discover Buddhism for yourself, or you discover some kind of important life philosophy, right? Like maybe you become a vegetarian, and transform. But a lot of it starts from within, right? Like it starts from the question of belief. You may be meeting people because it's the house of travel and foreign people. So you may be meeting people through your travels, or people who are of a different culture that have a really strong effect on you. You seek depth, you seek intensity in your life. You no longer want to deal with experiences or people who are not as, kind of deep as you are. So there might be certain ripple effects that go towards your friendships, towards your interests, that as your beliefs change, those change as well. Be careful, as always, Pluto, showing shadows. Be careful of being too attached to your opinions and getting like involved in some kind of power struggles or trying to push your ideas on other people. At the same time, I think a more positive manifestation of this transit could be finding your power when it comes to your beliefs and like expressing things that you feel passionate about through teaching, through learning more about them, through writing about them, through becoming a source of influence and impacting the lives of other people. If you are a Cancer rising, Pluto is about to go into your 8th house. This year we get 2.5 months, but in general it's an introduction of a 20-year-long cycle. So pay attention to the themes that get introduced right now, because you will likely be working on them for the next 20 years. Of course, we just had Saturn transit your 8th house, so it's not a brand new energy, but Pluto is a different vibe a little bit than Saturn, right? So Pluto in the 8th will gradually change your relationship with mysterious, secret, hidden, taboo topics, where you may become more interested in those things and start to learn about astrology, about tarot, kind of tap into projects that are, or interests that are less PG-13 potentially. Maybe you're getting more in touch with your inner desires, with your passions, right? Like you're kind of building your intuition, using your intuition, connecting with these hidden topics, right? Like, and that could be on a professional level, that could be on a sexual level, that you're exploring some things. Pluto in the 8th will also make you look at money and your relationship to money and your relationship to debts and taxes, potentially having you face certain like fears connected to money, right? And maybe as a result put in better structures in place. 8th house is a place of death, but it's not always that you have to deal with actual death. A lot of times you can actually be benefiting through, someone passes away, leaves you an inheritance, transforming your entire life and transforming your finances. So you can definitely expect financial transformations that, improve your life significantly or bring up fears that you need to address in order to kind of bring better structures. 8th house is the house of other people's money, your partner's money. So your partner may be going through a big transformation when it comes to their career as well. And watch out for power struggles when it comes to money, where either you or your partner are holding on too tightly to what they have. If you are a Leo rising, Pluto is about to dip his toes into your 7th house for 2.5 months this year, the start of a 20-year-long cycle. Pay attention to these 2.5 months because they will introduce themes of the next 2 decades. So Pluto in the 7th brings big changes to your business relationships and your personal relationships. 7th house, classically the house of who are you with. It's the house of your most closest interpersonal relationships, right? So So Pluto in the 7th will make you crave intensity and seek relationships that are very passionate, very emerging, soul-bending, important relationships. If you try to hide from this energy, you may encounter people who are acting passionate and possessive and obsessive, and through these relationships you will get in touch with your own passionate nature. So there might be some drama, there might be, of course, some power struggles in relationships, some control issues, and some fears you need to address, right? Because like you may be grappling or trying to find a good balance between being in a relationship and being in this like soul bending contract, but also being afraid of it because of what it means and how it might affect you. So fears connected to like true partnership might need to be addressed, right? Like you may be meeting new people who are very significant for your future, people who have some Plutonian energies in them, like they could be Pluto rules like darkness, right? So like a mafia underworld ruler or something. So like a mafia lord or someone who gets obsessed with you. So be careful. And like I said, try to address this energy within yourself so that you meet it less from other people. And of course, this could be the time of really big changes, right? Like you start a business, you find empowerment through standing on your own 2 feet, you get married, you meet someone who never, you feel feelings you never felt before. So it could be a significant transformation of you through relationships you're in. And let me know if you're ready. If you are Virgo rising, Pluto is about to enter your 6th house on Thursday, March 23rd. We'll stay there until June 11th. And then will permanently enter for 20 years next year. So it's an introduction of a really long period, and you may see themes popping up right now, but it might take them longer to fully develop. So Pluto in the 6th house changes your everyday life. It changes your approach to health, changes your approach to work, changes the way you deal with serving others, right? So when it comes to health, this might be the time when you become more interested in health matters. You become more aware of how what you eat is impacting you, right? Actually, I have a friend who just recently became super, super interested in it, but she's an Aqua rising. So Pluto has been transiting her 12th house. So not quite the same, but there's an opposition there, so maybe a little bit. But yeah, like being more interested in what you eat, being more aware of how your diet or your exercise routine is affecting your moods, right? So there might be more like deeper attitude on trying to understand the root of any issues you're facing. So as a result, you may be transforming your bad habits and letting some of them go. Professionally, right? Like you may initially feel like you need to work extra hard and like put a lot of effort in, which I would recommend that you're trying to find a better balance. Certain fears connected to work may come up where maybe you're fearing criticism or you're fearing the changes that are happening at your job. If we're looking at Aquarius energy, right? Like your company is thinking of bringing new technology and you're worried that you're not gonna gel with it really well. So you sort of will have to address certain fears when it comes to work. The best way sometimes to approach this could be maybe starting your own business or, trying to do something professionally that maybe makes you feel uncomfortable, but at the same time makes you feel aligned and powerful. I can also see this as a big transformation and becoming a healer of some sort, becoming a guide for other people, becoming a dietitian, a nutritionist, etc. If you are a Libra rising, Pluto is about to enter your 5th house, bringing deep changes to the topics of romance, self-expression, creativity, fun, sex, and children. And this is an introduction of a 20-year-long cycle, right? This year we only get 2.5 months, so pay attention to the topics that come up, but don't expect the change to just happen in those 2.5 months, right? Like, look at your attitudes, look at the things you're working on, look at your relationships, and you can potentially get some clues on what the next 20 years of your life will be about. And like I said, always with Pluto, you seek intensity, right? So you want intensity, you want passion, and as a result, you may get more in touch with your sexuality, you may get more in touch with your true interests, where you are taking on different creative projects, right? Like you're pursuing projects that truly make you feel passionate and excited. So as a result, you can definitely see a change to your creative projects and to your role as a creator, right? Like if you're someone who is into art and creativity. Be careful when it comes to wanting to be in control, as always, right? Like with Pluto will make you face fears, and fears in the 5th house potentially have to do with, you know, like having to share with someone, or being afraid of like betrayal and loss and kind of losing joy and losing fun. And as a result, you may try to control and hold on very tightly to the people or the things you have. You may be more controlling with your children as they're growing up and separating from you. So be mindful of that, right? Like, and try to understand that you can only control yourself, and you cannot really control people in your life. Could be very significant. Romance could be very deep right now, right? Like you can be meeting Plutonian figures, intense, passionate lovers who bring you to, you know, the deepest levels of pleasure. But be also careful, because sometimes they can be controlling and possessive, and like it's either you facing that energy from them or you are acting that way. But in any case, like needing to address fears and learning to overcome fears that have to do with the matters of romance, creativity, and children is likely. But I think as a result, you know, you can tap into the shadows and express them creatively, and express them through like having more deep and honest relationships. You throw yourself, like I think basically like you throw yourself wholeheartedly and very passionately into whatever you do at this time. And that could be being a parent, that could be being a creator, or a romantic partner. If you are a Scorpio rising, Pluto dips its toes into your 4th house between March 23rd and June 11th, introducing the themes of the next 20 years. So pay attention to the topics that are significant right now. You're not necessarily going to see major changes immediately, but you will see the new beginnings get introduced. And this one is interesting because that's the transit that I'm completing as a Libra rising, with Pluto being in Capricorn since 2008. So Pluto in the 4th house brings slow but major changes to your home, family, your living situation, and your inner sense of comfort and security. So in terms of your living situation, you may end up moving somewhere far away from home, right? Like Pluto is known for stealing Persephone from a sunny field and bringing her into the underworld, where she first suffers but then becomes empowered. And as someone who is finishing this transit, I pretty much at the start of it, a little bit before, I crossed the ocean and I moved to the US from Russia. So a big transformation to your living situation is likely, as well as major changes to your family dynamics, right? You may be becoming more in charge in your family. You may be stepping into a different role. You may be reviewing your childhood and your relationship with your parents, and looking for ways to deepen them, or looking for ways to improve them, bringing better boundaries in. My family completely transformed, you know, as someone like who moved away I used to have a lot closer relationship with them. I did have some loss in the family, but you know, for me, all of the loss coincided with Saturn being co-present with Pluto. So I don't want to worry you guys unnecessary. Saturn and Pluto together is a mess. Saturn will not be in the same sign as Pluto during this cycle, so I wouldn't worry. But you can experience a sense of like maybe losing your innocence in some regard. Like Pluto in the fourth house sometimes is connected to shadows, right? Like Pluto is always connected to shadows. You put it in the house of home and family, and there might be certain like darkness getting revealed. You start to see your family for who they are. I actually had, before my grandparents passed away, like there was something that my grandpa did to my grandma that was like shocking, and you know, and it came out as like old people get older, I guess their filters go down, and he just decided to like, I don't even remember how it got shared, but it was like a very weird thing that I was like, I could have been fine never knowing it. I think it wasn't like cheating, but it was kind of, you know, very, very unpleasant. So yeah, so having more insights, seeing shadows, seeing things for what they are. Be careful of, you know, trying to control things, as always, trying to hold on to your old view of things or to the way things were, because it's likely they will no longer be how they were. You may become a parent, you may deal through some kind of changes connected to your parents, right? You may have to let go of some of your power, and through letting go of the power, you may actually find more of it, because you will find more power within yourself. So it's an interesting transformation that could be both visible, like I said, when it comes to becoming a parent or moving, or it could be more internal. I definitely can say that my life has changed so much, and as a result of Pluto exiting my fourth house, I do feel like a lot more happy within myself, more confident and more secure. So that's like good news when it comes to this transit, something to look forward to. Now, if you are a Sag rising, Pluto is beginning its 20-year-long period in your third house. This year we only get 2.5 months, but they are introductory, they are important, so pay attention between March 23rd and June 11th, what kind of happens to you. So Pluto in the third brings deep but slow changes to your communication, to your everyday life, to your relationship with siblings, and to your mindset. Third house deals with things you say, right? Things you do on your everyday rounds, everyday life. So here you are looking at deep speech. Your speech becomes more powerful. Your speech becomes more intense. You like come across as very strong, I think. Like, you know, you can come across with like a lot of power. So be aware that your words can carry more weight right now. They can be more important, more significant. So you can influence other people a lot more right now. You will be more interested in deep topics, right? Like shallow will no longer do. So if you have a passion, if you have an interest, you will do a lot of research on it. You will dig deeply. You might start studying and just kind of like going all in. Your relationships may be transforming. Like there might be some shadows you have to address when it comes to siblings, when it comes to neighbors, and potentially rethink those relationships, introduce better boundaries, and in general, I think like learning to express yourself, learning to communicate better, because like I said, you do have the power to what you say, but you want to make sure that you're not like hurting people, or you're not communicating in a way that is sabotaging you, right? Like I have Taurus, Sun, Aries, Mercury, Sag rising friend, and my Mercury's in Libra, so I'm very much like pleasant communication, right? As you can probably tell by listening to me. And her Mercury is just like straight to the point, cutting Aries. And not to say, one is right or one is wrong. I think you can benefit from either style of communication, but we've definitely had a lot of kind of disagreements of her just telling me something that I would find very hurtful, and her believing that her like communication style is the only right way of communicating, Taurus sun. So like learning to communicate, learning to like harness your power and use it wisely. And because third house deals with like education and teaching and writing, this could also be the time where you're using your knowledge and using your words to write, to speak, to blog, to teach other people and follow your dreams. Third house also is a place of business. So sometimes it could be the time where you are getting ready to actually venture out there and like start a business. If you are a Capricorn rising, Pluto is finally exiting your first house. Congratulations. And it's going into your second house. So on March 23rd until June 11th this year, we will be introduced to the topics of the next 20 years of Pluto and Aquarius. So Pluto is going into your second house, which means you have completed a big chapter of your personal growth. And now is the time to change your income and your values. So when it comes to income, right, this could be the time when you are figuring out new passions. I'm born with Pluto in the second house, and Pluto in the second house is often a sign of going through major transformations when it comes to your career. Few times, right? Like I have studied information security, then I came here, started film production, I worked as a medical biller, I worked in TV, I was an editor for a while, now I'm an astrologer. So it's like five different things. I also studied business administration for a little bit. So like be ready to perhaps let go of the old source of income and discover a talent that you're willing to dive into fully. Of course, Pluto always represents fears, so needing to address like a fear when it comes to spending money, a fear when it comes to losing money, maybe, letting go of some attachments that you have been holding on to, and also like facing those issues of holding on to things. You may be quite getting really good at investing money and actually making money through investment, and kind of a lot better at spotting deals and, investing your resources that you do. And that's interesting because like whenever I shop online as someone born with Pluto in the second house, like I always try to like, check if there's like any coupon code. That might be my like thrifty Virgo as well, but like I think it's always kind of, not all the time, but most of the time I do that. So you can also experience like to become kind of really good at giving financial advice and really good at like saving money potentially. And learning some lessons when it comes to money and your personal self-worth, because money is one of the things connected to the second house, but it's also a sense of self-reliance, a sense of depending on yourself and being your own source of comfort and security. If you are an Aquarius rising, this is a big deal, right? On March 23rd, Pluto begins its 20-year-long transit through your first house. Of course, this year it only stays there until June 11th, but it's basically, next year, almost a full year, and then until 2044. Pluto in the first is deep inner transformations that spill in the outer world. It starts with you facing potentially some kind of shadows. It's you learning about yourself, right? You discovering new interests, discovering your voice, your power, your desires. So like you will be likely coming across as more intense, you will be more interested in intense topics. And as that inner transformation goes, the outer you changes as well. You may notice that as you become more confident with yourself, you become more interested in getting tattoos, or your style changes. You might start wearing more black, right? Like you might be presenting yourself differently. If you change inside, you may like change your name or change your wardrobe or change your look. All of it has to do with like reclaiming your personal power, letting go of people that are not serving you, letting go of experiences, and kind of, it's like, you know, dying and being reborn. You may, of course, there might be some events that are activating these changes, and it's not just you discovering things, like, you know, maybe having to address a toxic relationship, maybe graduating and embracing your power, maybe dealing with some kind of frustrating, like Pluto could be tough, where you are facing, you know, either you trying to control people or someone's trying to control you, and through kind of like facing your own fears and facing darkness, you grow and you're changing, growing and changing. So be mindful, of course, of your fears and your desire to control and your desire to get things to be the way you want them to be. Instead, try to figure out what truly matters to you and then zoom in and focus on those things. There might be a bit of like tension between wanting to be private, wanting to be quiet, but also wanting to find power, as I mentioned, for Taurus risings with Pluto being in their 10th house. So that's something to consider, right? Like if you want to be powerful but you also want privacy, maybe you need to have a better balance. Finally, if you are a Pisces rising, Pluto is about to go into your 12th house this year for 2.5 months, between March 23rd and June 11th, but then next year, for the next 20 years. So it's an introduction of a 20-year-long cycle that will bring gradual and deep changes to your psyche, to how you deal with change, to how you deal with loss, to healing. And 12th house, I really like looking at it, at the 12th house as your blind spot, and that could be all of the self-destructive tendencies, or that could be things that you're passionate about but you're not addressing, something within you that needs attention, that wants to get out, that is deeply inherent to who you are and really needs to be addressed. So Pluto will make you look at both of those, right? So if we're talking about self-destructive things, there might be events that make you address them. Like you have a bad habit that you're hiding from your family, you have a gambling problem, and you get confronted and you need to address that. Or you have a relationship that you're hiding from other people and you need to address that. There might be like past relationships coming for a visit, past wounds, past difficulties that you thought you have put to rest, but you need to look at them closely. 12th house deals with spirituality, so you might find yourself be more interested in spiritual things and actually find more support through spirituality, astrology, tarot, anything like that. It can be like a source of healing for you right now, for sure. And as far as things that you haven't addressed, like I said, there might be like a hidden part of you that is seeking to be expressed, like an interest, a passion, an interest, like a latent passion that you haven't looked at, that you need to understand and you need to manage and you need to express. So maybe you want to be a healer, maybe you want to be a writer, and you can no longer hide it, right? Like from having Aqua Risings clients who are completing this, like I know someone who got interested in human design, somebody else who got like interested in astrology. So when you feel like you're facing or battling a lot of your inner shadows, look outside of yourself, look for spiritual support. And of course, it's not going to be like all of the time, all 20 years, you're just like facing inner demons, but it's likely to be a period that is transforming you and like calling you to kind of stop hiding, or, you know, like calling you to let go of something that is preventing your growth and blocking your progress. So this is it. We made it through all 12 signs, talked about Pluto and Aquarius. Let's see how it affects us. Let me know how you feel. Are you excited? Are you scared? Are you nervous? Don't be, take it one step at a time, and we're gonna make it through. And I'm gonna see you very soon, and we'll be checking in, and hopefully, everyone is doing well. Anyways, have a great week, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.